Dear friends, welcome to another episode of The Informant. In today's video, we'll delve into the intensifying Chinese pressure on the Philippines in the South China Sea and examine the firm stance taken by the United States, which has made it clear that it will defend its ally against any aggression. But before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. In a new wave of provocations by mainland China authorities against Philippines, a Chinese Coast Guard vessel has rammed a Philippine Coast Guard, PCG, near the Escoda Shoal, which is in the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, for 3 times intentionally and deliberately. The provocations by Chinese authorities against Southeast Asian nations are escalating since the start of 2024, as the PLAN activities in the South China Sea increase. In the late 1940s, during the final stages of the Chinese Civil War, both the nationalists led by Chiang Kai-shek and the communists led by Mao Zedong began publishing maps of the South China Sea, which became known as the maps of the 11 dashes. As the name suggests, these maps depicted that vast sea with 11 dashes or lines encircling the entire region, marking it as Chinese territory. In the 1950s, Communist China revised the map, removing 2 lines that bordered the coast of North Vietnam, resulting in the 9-dash line map, which, according to Beijing, represents the territory that officially belongs to China and no one else. This territory even includes the exclusive economic zones of all the countries bordering that sea, particularly Vietnam and the Philippines. China, citing a mysterious historical connection, claims that the entire sea, nearly twice the size of the Mediterranean, is Chinese territory, and therefore can only be exploited by the Chinese. The major issue, as I mentioned, is that this territorial claim directly violates the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, a set of laws that dictate, among other things, that in open sea zones, the area 200 nautical miles from the coast, equivalent to just over 370 kilometers, is for the exclusive exploitation of the country whose coast is closest, known as the exclusive economic zone. This is a fundamental law of international law that China is ignoring throughout the South China Sea. Beijing is violating the territorial rights of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, with the Filipinos currently being the most affected by China's aggressive expansionism in the region, which has led to the construction of massive artificial military islands, some of which are equipped with airstrips, radars, and missile launchers. However, the most condemnable Chinese action is the harassment and pursuit of Filipino ships by Chinese military vessels, a pursuit that, it is important to emphasize, occurs within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines. There are numerous reports of attacks by Chinese ships on Filipino vessels, involving water cannons that have injured many Filipinos, and even ramming incidents where Chinese ships struck Filipino ships 5 or 6 times smaller, resulting in significant material damage and injuries. In parallel with these actions, China maintains a highly aggressive rhetoric, and despite its already violent actions, Beijing is threatening to act even more aggressively and decisively, which, according to many sources, means that China is threatening to use firearms against Philippine ships. But there is a significant obstacle for the Chinese, the United States. Before World War II, the Philippines was an American territory, purchased from the Spanish in the late 19th century after Spain's defeat in the war against the United States. During World War II, the entire vast territory was invaded and occupied by the Japanese, with the Philippines gaining independence shortly after that terrible conflict ended. However, the Filipinos, aware of their military weakness and fearing another foreign invasion, formed a military alliance with the United States in August 1951. This alliance, among other things, gives the Americans the right to operate several military bases on Philippine soil. But most importantly, it is a genuine military alliance, meaning that if the Philippines is attacked and the country invokes its military alliance, the United States is legally obligated to come to its allies' aid. At present, Washington maintains a significant military presence in that territory, with hundreds of soldiers, dozens of aircraft, and ships spread across 9 bases. Therefore, in the event of a military emergency and the activation of the alliance, the United States can quickly deploy forces to support its ally, which is precisely what the Pentagon recently stated it would do. According to the U.S. Armed Forces spokesperson, the country is ready and fully willing to honor its military alliance with the Philippines. This means that if China follows through on its threats and attacks Philippine ships more aggressively, the Philippines will have no choice but to activate its military alliance with the United States, which will inevitably lead to a direct confrontation between the Chinese Navy and the U.S. Navy in the South China Sea. If you value independent journalism and want to support our work, consider buying us a coffee through the QR code on the screen. Your contribution is essential for us to continue bringing quality analysis and information. Stay tuned for more updates, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest analyses and insights on the world's most urgent geopolitical issues.
Incoming! Incoming! Parating pa ata ulit to? Wala na?